when it comes down to certain conversations, I do find them fascinating. The problem of evil, like, why is there bad things happening if God's so good? Well, I think that we kind of forget that God's response from the very beginning was just his resounding indictment, like him declaring evil to be judged in the first place, right? Like the fact that you can even say, "Oh, like this is bad," demonstrates that God has already done his job. And so I kind of demonstrate that. I found this little clip very interesting, and it got me sparked thinking about it. Like, hey, wait a minute! Like the problem evil has already been dealt with, and it's like, why do rules and laws exist? And let's see what this little exchange is. This guy in his food truck, and he's hearing some people yapping in the background.
Commandments are bullshit. The fuck? Those rules exist because shit went wrong, not because shit went right. That's not true. Don't kill people. Don't cheat on your wife. When is that good? Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. How did you make it this far in life with this garbage attitude, man? I don't even want to serve you this kebab. Nah! The 10
And so it's a little funny exchange of basically people saying like, oh, because you get this response, right? You get this response of people saying, why do you feel you need something to give you morality? Do you not have a sort of predisposed opinion? And I think they go too far in the sense of, listen, it's not that you don't have morality, or dare I say a presupposed like position. It's more so these things are written to sort of confirm the common sense that you should already have. That yes, it's not subjective that adultery is wrong. It's not subjective that murder is condemnable and evil. It's not subjective that the most heinous crime you think of is is actually genuinely evil. And so that's why that's the beauty about God's answer toward evil. It's not that, quote unquote, he prevents these bad things from happening, because I mean, when you give people their own agency, naturally, like, it's in their hands to enforce justice, right? If justice exists, it's in your hands to enforce it. It's also in people's hands to therefore be held accountable. And so here's what the comments have to say to this funny clip. And the first one says, 10 simple rules, not 100, not 1,000, not even 50, 10. And God still has to come down and teach us how to do better. It's a shame, isn't it? It's a shame, but they're true, because it's funny. Like if morality was so just straightforward and just common sense, we wouldn't have the police. We wouldn't have courts to find justice and make it plain. Well, to the best of their ability, because human courts can only do so much. Let's see. Somebody said the scary part is how many people actually think sometimes you got to do what you got to do is wisdom. And that is true, right? It's sort of supposed to be like a sort of ugly reality that just sort of you got to face certain situations that you don't have the best options, right? And some people will actually take that and say, nah, this is actually like enlightening. Man, that's when it comes to podcasters and all types of online celebrities, you find out quickly that they're saying some of the most basic stuff, or dare I say framing some of those basic stuff with the most exaggerated version of it, and that like they get popular because of their personality on top of these things and on top of these exaggerated things, and they become like the wise men of this age. I had a conversation a few years back with a friend of mine who was enamored by Andrew Tate, right? When he was on the scene and he was on the rise, for all the platforms banned him, and every court tried to hold him accountable for some of the diabolical things that he was promoting and some of the things that he did in the past that I had witnesses, right? And I told him like this, I'm like, some of this stuff that he's saying is just directly what Jesus said, but in the way he's saying it is diabolical, or just exaggerating basic concepts and prescribing violent and just macho rhetoric on top of it. It's like, yes, Jesus, love that neighbor as thyself. Give each other the equal respect. Andrew Tate, demand respect, and if a woman doesn't talk to you, if a woman doesn't talk to you with any kind of way, you just smack her. And it's like, what? Like, how did you take a basic concept and turn it into something violent? What's wrong with you? Either way, let's see. Somebody said, "Don't murder." It isn't don't kill. It's don't murder. No, yeah, yeah. Like the death penalty is a good thing, and self-defense is a tragic thing that must be respected. Like it's there for a reason, because people need to know. Yes, if you do something, if you do something diabolical to me, in the same way he just grabbed that little knife there, yeah, like I can defend myself, and I have legal justification to do so. Let's see. 10 Commandments are the easiest rule to follow. It's effortless kindergarten level of rules. It's funny. It's funny he should say that. I mean, that first one is pretty powerful, right? Have no other gods before me. I am your God. How many people just follow that basic one, or just idol worship, right? And so, I mean, you can like, I think that there's a simplicity to it that everybody can follow, but it is very clear that like it's like in the same way Jesus criticized the rich young ruler. You got to be careful saying they're easy, because not even that commenter performs them perfectly. Let's see. I'm not even religious, and I think the 10 Commandments are a crucial part of civilization. There you go. They're like the objectivity of these 10 Commandments are already important. And so when it comes to just right, like the law, what do I mean when I say that God gave the problem, or the answer to the problem of evil? Well, I think stuff like Deuteronomy 31 verse 26 is a good place to start. Take this book of the law and put it by the side of the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, that it may be there for a witness against you. The law is described as a sort of witness, meaning somebody present and aware of what's going on and actually there to testify. It's designed to literally say what you're doing is not okay, and there is a judgment waiting for you. I think that's powerful, because like, sure, you can criticize God's patience, even though other verses say that it's obviously to our advantage of salvation. But the law is a witness designed to say what you're doing is not okay, and it's in written, it's plain, and you're gonna get what you deserve. Now then, First Timothy chapter 1 verses 9 through 11 actually adds upon this in a very profound and beautiful way. It says, and this is Paul's communication to his disciple Timothy. He says, understanding this, that the law is not laid down for the just, but the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and sinners, for the unholy and profane, for those who strike their fathers and mothers, for murderers, the sexually immoral, men who practice homosexuality, enslavers, liars, perjurers, whatever else is contrary to sound doctrine, in accordance with the gospel of the blessed God, of the glory of the blessed God, with which I have been entrusted. It's very clear that Paul's making sure that the narrative about the law is clear. It's good, but in this way, understanding. Listen, the law in its very clear descriptions of cases and clauses, and very much many pages, is specifically, I guess you could say, to simplify what he's saying, it's to make those aware that their judgment is coming. It's literally laid down not for the people who do right, but to examine those who do wrong and call them guilty. Right? Well, we can say, "Oh, an evil person is evil, and we know you're evil. You can't play games with us." We're literally confirming God's law is actually very real, and it's doing its job. Because yes, when we can identify evil, this means we can identify something objective. We can identify something objective, we can prosecute it, we can condemn it, and we can punish it. Galatians chapter 3 verse 9 says this though, why then the law? It was added because of transgressions, until the offspring should come to whom the promise had been made, and it was put in place through angels by an intermediary. Translation: What was the purpose of the law? Why do we have it? It's because of sin. If anything, the law makes sin more clear. It makes evil more clear. It also makes responding to it a bit simpler. And on top of that, it was put in place for the sake of the judge to enter the world. That blessed offspring. This is highlighting Genesis 3, by the way. The seed of the woman, Jesus Christ. the judge will judge by the righteousness of the law and actually lay out the sentence. That is the promise. And also that is the beautiful promise of salvation as well, because just as he'll lay out the sentence, he'll also lay out the righteousness and redemption of those who lived according to the essence of the law, truth, right? And of course, let's not forget that put in place through angels by an intercessory, obviously, divine messengers, God's elect, God, like what God approved. This was legalized in a very formal way, is what this is saying. And so, what else does Paul find? Well, again, as I keep saying, we only know good and evil in an objective sense because it's written. Romans chapter 7, verse 7. What then shall we say? That the law is sin? By no means. Yet if it had not been for the law, I would not have known sin. You know, people could just say, sometimes it's good to just murder people. You know, to just take lives. You know, it's good. It gets the blood flowing. You know, it's good to cheat on your wife sometimes. You know, like she could learn a lesson. You know, without the law, we wouldn't be able to objectively say no, that you're crazy. You're going to jail. Age of consent, age is just a number. You know, we can go lower. No, you're evil. The law is coming for you. You're cooked. Or I would have known, so known in a very specific, like, objective way, what it is to covet if the law had not said, you shall not covet. And so, what is the meaning of this video? What is the message? Well, Romans chapter 12, verses 21 is a powerful statement that essentially is the reason God put the law in place. It's the reason he sent his messengers. It's the reason Jesus Christ is so influential. But when you're confronted with evil, you don't be overcome by evil. You overcome evil with good. And God challenged evil with the righteousness of his law from the very beginning. When humanity came on the scene, and he immediately started laying down ground rules. This is how you know he had an answer for it, because judgment was already in place. On the day you disobey me, your life will now be judged. Very simple, right? And so, let me know what you guys think about this video. Do you think I was hitting him down the head, or do you think I was waffling for a good 10 minutes? I think it's interesting conversations about evil and why the law is so important, and why Jesus even confirms, right? I mean, he's not doing away with it. We're not going backwards. We're going forwards. But either way, I hope this video finds you well, and I hope this gives you a new reason to read the Old Testament and look at the prophets and look at the scriptures, and of course be found in Jesus Christ. But either way, I got to get to work. So God bless and stay blessed.